Now we're ready to create the actual image map to highlight the hotspots that we'll be using so that we end up with the expected behavior when someone views the file main page in a browser. First thing though would probably be helpful, the file that we created in Photoshop, let's go ahead and save it to this folder or copy and paste it in the folder Image Map Project, the folder that contains all of the files that we just created in the last tutorial. Now open a browser, it doesn't matter which one, and point the browser to www.image-maps.com. What this site lets us do is create the relevant image map. Again, the URL is www.image-maps.com. Once we're here, click on the little Browse button. That'll allow us to upload an image from our local computer, and we're going to work with that in creating the image map. So we click Browse, and then we look for the image that we want to use in creating the image map. So again, I saved it in this same folder as the other files. We'll see why in just a little bit, but we'll select this, open it, and then click on Start Mapping Your Image. And it should tell us it successfully uploaded it, and now we want to click Continue to Next Step. So what we're going to do is use this website to create the HTML code that corresponds to identifying this selection and this selection within the image as the hotspots. First thing I want you to do though is take a look over at the right hand menu, and we're going to delete a couple of things that are here. First, uncheck the checkbox that says base URL, and also uncheck the checkbox that says show text links. You can actually try this on your own with these things, particularly the show text links selected, and you'll see what happens. You might actually like that effect, but for the purposes of this tutorial I'm going to leave those unchecked. So then we scroll back up. Let's first identify this rectangular region with the soldiers as the first hotspot. And since what I've done when I shaded it was made a rectangular region, we're going to click here on Rectangle. And now what the site has done is overlain my image with something that I can drag and then resize by grabbing a corner. So I resize it so that it's as close as possible to matching the shaded region. Now what I want to do, where it says link for this map, I want it to say soldiers.html. And then some other stuff. Let me explain what's going on here. This is going to generate the HTML that we're going to insert in the file mainpage.html. What we're doing is specifying the file that's going to appear in the right frame when the user clicks on this particular portion of the image. In order to get it to work out exactly right, we have to add a couple of kind of odd things. So this part, the soldiers.html, what you're going to do in place of this file name is use a file name that you created in the previous tutorial that corresponds to the commentary for the region that you've just identified. And then you want to have, following that file name with the HTML extension, double quote, space, target equals, double quote, and the word right. Don't worry about the explanation for why you want to add this additional text. Just do it and it'll all work out fine. Title or alt for this map. This is what the user will see when they mouse over as opposed to click this region. So we want it to be descriptive. Let's say we want the alt tag to be soldiers. That probably makes sense here. And now we click Save. We have one more region to do in this tutorial, and that corresponds to the region of this tree. Since it's not a rectangular shaded region, we want to select Custom Shape rather than Rectangle as we've done before. What Custom Shape is going to let us do is specify the points of a polygon that enclose the selected region. So what we do, it's very similar to the polygonal lasso tool, except we can skip that final step of mousing over and clicking on the initial point. So we just move the mouse and then click on, since this isn't a very complicated region, we'll probably only have to do 4 or 5 of these to get the region selected. We don't need to go back and click over the original point that we used. Now we want to come over here and change the link so that it points to the proper file that will then appear on the right frame when the user clicks on this portion of the image. So what we do is type in trees.html, because that's the name of the file. Obviously you'll use whatever file name corresponds to the commentary file you created for this region. And then we have to add this funky stuff so that it all works out right in the end. Again, it's double quote, space, target equals double quote, right. Title, as with alt tag, should be something that's descriptive, so trees. So we save this, and now we're ready to view the relevant HTML code. So we click on this button that says Get Your Code, and then we select the tab HTML Code. Now we get a lot of HTML gobbledygook. Again, don't worry about what this says. Just copy and paste the entire thing into the main page file. So we're going to copy this. We can go ahead and close it because we're not going to use this anymore. And now we go back to our image map project folder. We find mainpage.html and we open it with a plain text editor. Now this little segment here that says insert HTML code generated by imagemaps.com, what we want to do is select that, right click, and then paste over it with what we just copied. Now there's just 2 more steps and we'll be ready to go. The first thing we want to do, I realize this section right here is kind of scary because it's HTML code, but there is one thing we're going to have to change to make sure that it works, and that is, we see this right here, final image.jpg. That's the name of the image that we saved out of Photoshop. What we're going to want to do is delete everything in front of that, but leaving in place source equals double quote. So this line should read, or this section of this line should read, source equals final image.jpg. Or if you called the file you saved out of Photoshop something else, it should be the name of that file. You need to make sure though that you didn't accidentally delete either of the 2 double quotes. So we go ahead, we save the file, we can close it, and now when we open this using a browser, it should behave exactly as we expect. So let's resize this so that you can see it. Here we go. So notice the title of the project appears here. This was what I typed in for the initial commentary. Now when we mouse over this section, we see the alt tag soldiers appearing. When we click on it, we see the right frame is replaced by the commentary that we saved earlier associated with this particular hotspot. When we mouse over the hotspot here, we see the alt tag trees, and when we click on it, we see the right frame replaced with the commentary that we expect. So now we have exactly what we want. We can go ahead and close this, and now this folder, imagemap.project, contains all of the files that are relevant for recreating this image map. So what you're going to want to do when you hand in this project for grading is make sure that you give the instructor the entire folder. And it should include, you can actually delete this file here, but it's not going to hurt to leave it in. So just so you don't accidentally delete the wrong file, it's probably safe to not delete anything. Remember, the image file needs to also be in this same folder. We put that here just a moment ago. We have our initial description of the project. We have the 2 right frames that we created that will contain commentary relevant to the highlighted regions. And then we have the main page that, when clicked on and launched in a browser, shows the image map with all of the functionality we create. So we're all done and we're ready to turn in the project.